Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Vicente Flores.
Another episode of Trash Talk. TJ O'Connor, joined tonight by Vicente Flores Jr., who's fighting November 15th at Jackpot Junction. Trash Talk is sponsored, as always, by Valhalla Combat Sports Incorporated, Inkshrinks Tattoo, and Mile High CBD Buds. Vicente, I appreciate you taking the time here to join me. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I just want to thank you for having me on Trash Talk tonight. I really appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. Want to get you on been looking for a chance to talk to you now that you got a big fight in your home area. I mean, it was definitely a no-brainer to get you on. When you got the call to fight at Jackpot, I mean, what was that like?
Well, it's another fight, and no fight is taken for granted. It's more experience towards me. I was just more or less happy that there was an opponent out there for me.
Definitely. And just talking about that, at this point, you got an opponent there for you. You get a fight in your home area. So many of your teammates on the card. It's definitely a beautiful experience. This is going to be your second fight. You had your first fight earlier this year. In my opinion, I thought it was a very dominant performance. Your amateur wrestling background showed, and it led you to being ranked number 9 in the Trash Talk rankings after only just one fight. Just for the fans that don't know, what was your introduction into mixed martial arts, and what's your background as far as training goes?
Well, my introduction, I actually have a younger brother that started training with Steve, Juan, and all of them. And then he just started bringing me along, and just kept me busy, kept me out of trouble. And, I started liking it, and like I said, I used to wrestle a lot in high school and whatnot. So put me back into my past, of when I was in high school, and just started enjoying it, and as far as training, my main coach is Steve Moore, everybody knows that. Juan Hernandez, Robert Comfort, Colin Ruby are my main partners, throughout the whole week. So they're the ones that are helping me get prepared for this upcoming event and for my past event as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And to have such a strong, supportive team. And you mentioned Steve, the head coach, Juan, obviously Sam, just the experience with those 3 guys alone. I mean, being an up-and-coming fighter who has the background, I mean, being a wrestler at that gym, I mean, for the most part, there's a lot of strikers, you know what I mean? So you bring a different dynamic and you're able to learn the striking. What has that brought to your game, knowing that you have the fundamentals of wrestling down and you'll be able to work with guys that are such technical strikers, such as Sam? I mean, Juan, he knocks everybody out.
Yeah, no, it's a big difference, wrestling to striking, but it is they did spiffen up my striking area. I did come from a street fighting background, which is a whole different game now. Everybody thinks they're bad when they're a street fighter, but once you get into that ring with people that are experienced, it's a whole different story. But yeah, no, these guys have definitely dedicated a lot of time to me, and like I said, they even my wrestling has brought different game to them as well, and it's definitely kept me up there.
Yeah, definitely. And being able to explore all that. And like I said, just the experience those guys learn. It's not even as much as the work in the gym as much as it is just the conversations and being able to soak that type of information up. And then with all 3 of them going to war with you, Sam and Juan on the same night, and Steve gets to fight just the week before. What's the electricity been like in that room? Have you been able to feed off that going into what is only your second MMA fight, knowing that these guys are veterans and you're going toe for toe with them, and you can mold yourself after them?
Yeah, it's definitely a big challenge keeping up with these guys. They're just, they're all heavy hitters. They're just that experience is there, but like I said, I train a lot more than others, so that helps me. That gives me a bigger edge as well. I'm in the gym at least 5 to 6 times a week, and it's like they are very well experienced. So I'm picking up a lot, and I'm picking up faster the more I go. And uh, that it's very intense as far as it's going. See, Steve fights this upcoming weekend,
Mhm.
and yeah, we've really been pushing rounds, and it's getting intense, especially with my fight being a week later. Um, everybody's working hard.
Yeah, like I said, I can only imagine the energy in that room, and like another couple, like you said, we can talk about those guys all day, but there's so many of your teammates that are on the card. Colin's on the card, Henry's on the card. I mean, just the
Yep.
room itself. You mentioned the work you're getting with Colin, who's a guy. I mean, not a lot of people might know about at 185. I had a chance to see his kickboxing match over the summer, so I mean, he's
Yeah.
definitely very experienced, especially for a guy that's 0-0. I mean, you mentioned him being one of your main training partners. He's primarily a striker. You're primarily the wrestler. Have you guys just been kind of working with each other tick for tat, or is it just something where, hey, we're the same size, let's go?
No, honestly, well, Colin's way bigger than me, size wise, height, and weight wise. But all my extra days that I put in at the gym, I actually put them in with Colin at his dad's gym, and it's making me and him a lot better. With his Taekwondo background and my wrestling background, I know he did some wrestling back then, but I am definitely the more experienced wrestler. But we are able to pick up, and learn a lot from each other. So, it gets intense as well.
I can only imagine that, like I said, what that room's like. Knowing how hard everybody wants to work, how everybody's looking to make a statement for themselves. This
Yeah.
is your second MMA fight now. First one since I believe you fought in March, like I said, which was a dominant performance. You're fighting a guy who's had 3 MMA fights. This is going to be your first fight fighting for Driller Promotions, and like I said, it's an opportunity to fight at home. Have you been getting a lot of people reaching out to you asking for tickets or advice on how to get there? I mean, what do you expect this room to be like fighting so close to home? Because I know your last fight was up north.
Yeah, my last fight was up in Walker, and my opponent, very, very tough opponent.
Mm,
There was no slouch in the guy.
no.
Um, and like I said, yeah, I did dominate the whole fight, and that was the whole plan, as it is in my upcoming event, and like I said, I'm ready. I'm putting in the work, and I'm ready. I'm not nervous at all. Um, Let me see. Yeah, it's just right now. I think my biggest challenge is getting my weight down. So
Yeah.
for my first fight, I cut from 215 down to 170.
Jeez.
Yeah, within a matter of months, and now I'm cutting down to 155. But I think in the overall the intensity in the arena is gonna be high. A lot of hometown folks are going. So yeah, even a better reason for me not to get my ass beat.
That's always the best reason, right? I
Yeah,
mean, I mean, having people there feeding off that energy. I mean, it's definitely going to be an electric experience. You mentioned this your first time getting down to 155. That's why we always like to try to speak to guys as far out from the fight as possible, just
yeah,
because I understand that weight cut. Damien, that's one of his biggest things is we got to not reach out to a guy when they're in the middle of a weight cut because how frustrating it is. And so I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us here tonight. Just talking about the work you put in here. This fight was announced about 2 months ago here. What has this camp been like for you? You mentioned some of the guys you've been working with, but I mean, how do you feel being just 10 days out from the fight today?
Oh, I feel really good. Camp. Even from my last fight, I haven't taken a break. I've been hitting the gym hard. Every day, and just it's either working my technique or my cardio. My boxing. All that stuff. I haven't stopped. So I feel like I'm at my. Everything's on point so far. Now it's more or less just keeping my strength as I cut down the weight. You know, that's one of the biggest things. I don't want to lose too much strength and just not have it when I need it.
Oh, definitely. You want to make sure that, you're able to maintain all the work you put in during the fight camp and do the cut the right way. But with some of the guys, your wrestling background, the guys you have with you, Steve obviously has a wrestling background as well. I'm sure the weight cut itself is at this point just fundamental. It's never fun, but it's just something you got to do. So, I mean, like I said, I hate asking, we never ask for a game plan, but what's the one thing that you would say for the fans that, or not even for the fans, but just for yourself, what do you know that Vicente has to bring to the cage on November 15 to ensure that your hand gets raised for the second time and you remain undefeated?
Well, definitely. I don't know much about my opponent. I do know he's got the boxing background. Um, so that my game plan is just to stick and move and dominate. Push the pace. I'm very confident that my cardio is gonna be there as needed. There's no worries about my cardio at all. So, but like he is, from what I have understood, he's a big time boxer. So, I just got to stick and move and try and dominate, especially.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't ask for a perfect camp to work with where you got to worry about people throwing punches at you. I mean, I have no worries that you're worried about that. Appreciate all your time here. Just before we wrap this up, Vicente, is there anybody that you want to thank, any teammates, sponsors, anybody outside of the gym even that's just been for you this camp that you want to give a special shout out to before the fight?
Yeah, my special shout out to, like I said, my coaches. Steve Moore, Juan Hernandez, Sam Hernandez, Robert, Colin. They've all done and been there for me. My mom, she helps me out a lot with taking care of my son so I can get to the gym. I'm a full-time single dad, so so it means a lot, making things happen, and her support as well.
That's awesome. I'm a father myself. I commend you on that, doing what it takes and still being able to follow your passion at the same time. And shout out to mom for being there for you. We love moms on Trash Talk, so that's always great to hear. Shout out to mom.
Yeah, it is.
Well, definitely, Vicente. I appreciate your time here tonight. Just one more time for the fans. That's Jackpot Junction, Driller Fights, November 15th. Vicente Flores Jr. looks to move to 2-0, remain undefeated, number 9 in the Trash Talk rankings, number 1 in your hearts. I appreciate your time, Mr. Flores. Wish you the best in this fight and moving forward. I look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you. Likewise, man. I appreciate your time. You have a good night.
You as well.
Are you listening? Damn.